brother Zuhair. And he says, what to do when one makes a mistake or forgets something in mandatory salat behind the imam. Basically, what Zuhair is asking about is, are we supposed to offer sujood sahu, the prostration of forgetfulness, when we're praying behind an imam or not? Now, it is important to understand the functions of the salat so that we know when to offer and when not to offer sujood sahu. So first of all, among the common mistakes that people frequently ask about is that, do we offer sujood sahu when we make a mistake in reciting an ayah after the Fatiha? So if I'm reciting Surah Al-Baqarah and I skip an ayah, or I make a mistake in an ayah, would I rectify this by sujood sahu? The answer is no. If I forgot to raise my hands when saying Allahu Akbar, do I have to make sujood sahu? The answer is no. Then when to do sujood sahu? Sujood sahu is done whenever you add or leave out or doubt whether you offered or did not offer a pillar or something that is mandatory in salat. So voluntary acts or sunnah acts in salat do not require sujood sahu, whether you've done it intentionally or out of ignorance or out of forgetfulness. You added, you left out a sunnah act or a sunnah rhetoric, this does not affect your salat. So pillars such as standing up, bowing, raising up from bowing, prostrating, sitting between the two prostrations, the tashahhud in the last sitting of the salat, etc. All of these are pillars. If you left them out of ignorance, forgetfulness, or deliberately, your prayer is invalid. You have to rectify it within the prayer itself. Otherwise, there is no pillar, the whole building falls down. If it is an mandatory act, such as saying Allahu Akbar when you move from one position to the other, or saying Sami Allahu liman hamida, or saying Subhana Rabbi al-Azim while you are in the ruku' position, or Subhana Rabbi al-A'la in the prostration position, or the first tashahhud in a prayer that has two tashahhud, like Maghrib or Dhuhr, Asr and Isha. All of these are obligatory or mandatory acts. If you forgot them or left them out or replaced them out of forgetfulness, you rectify this by offering two sujood for sahu. If you had done this intentionally, your prayer is invalid, whether you add or you leave out. Now, let us look at Zuhair's question. Zuhair is asking about leaving out mandatory acts, but while praying behind the imam. So praying behind the imam is or has one of two scenarios. The first scenario is that you join the imam from the first rak'ah. So if he's praying dhuhr, you prayed with the imam the whole 4 rak'ahs. Let us assume that you made a mistake during these 4 rak'ahs by leaving an obligatory or mandatory act, such as in the first rak'ah, while in the bowing position, in the ruku' position, instead of saying Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, you made a mistake and said Subhana Rabbi al-A'la 5 times, 10 times. Or you did not say anything at all. Instead, you started reading or reciting the Fatiha in the ruku'. When the Imam said Sami Allahu liman hamida, you rose up and said Rabbana wa lakal hamd, and they said, what have I done? I left out an obligatory act. What to do? In scenario number one, the scholars say that the imam carries any mistake that you do in obligatory or mandatory acts. And what does that mean? Meaning that if you left out or added something of the voluntary, of the mandatory or obligatory acts, unintentionally or out of forgetfulness or due to ignorance, your prayer is valid and you do not have to rectify it by offering two sujood as-sahu. The evidence, the Prophet said alayhi salatu wassalam, al-imamu damin wal-mu'adhdhinu mu'taman, which translates roughly to the imam is a guarantor, meaning that he guarantees that whatever mistakes you had done in your prayer, he rectifies it, he carries out the burden, and there's nothing on you. And the mu'adhin is entrusted. So when he calls the adhan, it is his responsibility. I don't have to make sure that the adhan is being called on time. Now, in scenario one, the imam has the power to exempt you from sujood as-sahu if you had left an obligatory or a mandatory act. But when it comes to pillars, this is not within the authority of the imam. Meaning that if you offered only one sujood with the imam, because when he made the first sujood, you followed him, you said Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, he said Allahu Akbar and sat between the two prostrations, but you didn't. And then he said Allahu Akbar and he prostrated again, and then he stood up for the second rak'ah while you only managed to make one sujood. This means that your whole rak'ah is void. Likewise, from the beginning, you started with the imam. In one of the 4 rak'ahs, while you were standing, you started reciting Surah Al-Baqarah and you forgot to recite Al-Fatiha. It's a silent prayer. So the imam did not recite it loudly. It's a pillar for you to recite it silently, but you forgot. And you discovered that after the rak'ah was over. This rak'ah is void. It does not count. So when the imam gives salam, you have to stand up and add an extra rak'ah in place of the one that you had missed. And then after you conclude your prayer and offer salam, you offer 2 sujood of forgetfulness, and then you offer another salam. This was scenario number 1. Now scenario number 2 is that if you join the imam after skipping 1 rak'ah or more. This means that when the imam concludes his prayer, you will stand up and complete what you had missed. In this case, you have to complete the prayer as usual, and then before salam or after salam, depending on the mistake you had done, you have to offer sujood as-sahu. Here, the imam does not carry the burden from you because you did not pray with him from the very beginning. Rather, you missed a rak'ah or more. And I hope this answers your question.